while I'm working on the fuel system, I also want to find out what I really have here as far as this 6.3 engine. You know, is there internal rust? Is there some damage that I'm not aware of? So I'm kind of excited to open this thing up a little bit. You know, one of the things you can do on these old engines, particularly if they've sat for years, is pull the valve covers. Because the valve, what you find underneath the valve covers or inside will give you a pretty good clue if the engine has had a lot of moisture contamination inside. That'll lead to rust. And you'll see it on the camshaft. The dry camshaft lobes will rust up. They'll get surface rust on them. And you know, that may mean you also have problems down in the cylinder walls with the rust forming there, and that's a big problem. But you also don't want to start one of these engines up if you've got rust on the camshafts. You at least want to open up the valve covers and look inside, and you know, if there is, you can clean some off if it's not badly rusted or severely pitted. So I'm going to open up the valve covers. I'm going to pull the spark plugs, and I'm going to pull a couple injectors to actually see what they look like. But you know, anytime you approach a job like this, don't start pulling valve covers until you have the area totally clean around them. So when you pull the cover off here, you know, you're not going to put a lot of dirt down in the engine. So I'm going to bring out my trusty air gun here with extension because I'm going to stand back. But I suspect there's going to be a lot of dust here. So we're going to don the dust mask. You won't be able to hear me talk very well here, but let's get this on. And, okay, a little face shield. All right, let's go to work. I think that probably should be good enough. Now you'll get to open up these valve covers with me and we'll find out what's inside this engine. I mentioned in one of my earlier videos how clean it is down inside this valve cover when I remove the oil filler cap. Look at how clean that oil filler cap is. So you can tell from just looking here and here, I am very hopeful. So now let's pull this valve cover off. This could be a surprise for both of us. We're gonna have to unhook the breather. Oh, it's already torn here, so I'm not gonna worry about removing that. And it's pretty easy to remove these 6.3 valve covers. There's just two bolts, 13mm head bolts that hold this in place. So let's get this off. I've worked around enough of these old engines to know a lot of times these valve covers get stuck on. So I've got my soft-faced hammer. You know, I can't, right now, I can't budge it. It's stuck. So I'm just going to do some light tapping here. Okay, okay, let's see if we can get it to move. There she goes. She broke loose. All right, here we go, folks. The big surprise. Oh my word. Take a look at that. We have just one little bit of spot of rust, but the cam lobes look absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. Let me move the camera in close and I'll give you a closer look at what I'm seeing. Take a close look. Look at that. Yeah, I'm picking up that's the only spot of rust right there. See that? Just a light bit of rust on this oiler tube, but other than that, all the cam lobes, all the rockers, and even the oil. Look at the oil is still, can you believe that after 18 years? It hasn't totally dried out. We still have oil on the rockers. So talk about being excited. I mean, this is amazing, just amazing. Look at the chain. We're gonna pull the other side now and we'll take a quick peek at that. And then we're gonna pull a couple of these spark plugs out right down here. Just take a look at this left side camshaft and rocker segment. Look at that. No corrosion. You got a little spot, once again, you got a little spot of rust back here on this oiler tube. But look, you've got wetness. You've got oil wetness in here, and you've got oil down there on that edge of the cylinder head, and some of these rockers are still wet with oil. You know, this is amazing, folks. This car sat outside. It didn't sit inside. It sat outside for 18 years. And I call this a minor miracle. Okay, now I want to pull a couple of plugs. I'm just going to pull the rear ones here on this right side because they're easy to get to. Some of these aren't so easy to get to. We're going to get these plugs off, plug cables off, okay? Now, you've done the same thing here. I've got the compressed air in here and really blown out these cavities on these plugs because once again, you don't want dirt falling down the engine. One of the reasons I'm pulling plugs out is because if there's any rust on the plugs from moisture inside the cylinder walls, that is going to be a bad sign as well. So let's see what happens when, oh, that was nice. It wasn't in there too hard. Okay, here's the test. Look at that, no rust. Looks like it's been burning rich, which is kind of typical on these engines with this fuel injection system. So I'll set that one down. Let's just do one more. Come on, baby, get on there. Wow, look at that. Loose plug. That's probably a good example why when you get a car like this, you want to check the plugs. I've seen loose plugs before. In fact, the very first 6.3 I purchased about 15 years ago had a plug that was blown out of it. That's why I was able to purchase it. Okay, look, you can actually tell. See that? This plug's been leaking. It has not been in there tight enough. Okay, same thing, no evidence of rust. So that's a good sign. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing in this engine so far. So do you think I'm happy or what? I mean, the signs I've seen so far point to a very good engine. And when you're talking a 6.3, this is a huge factor in the cost of restoring one of these cars. So everything looks good right now. You're probably wondering, some of you might be wondering why I'm working outside here. It's actually raining and it's cold. It's actually November 24th. And I've kind of made the commitment that I've got to work on this thing because it is not, folks, it is not going into the shop until I'm completely done with this fuel system. I still have that residual smell coming out from some of the fuel lines from that 18-year-old fuel, and it is so obnoxious. You know, 3 weeks later, it's still right up here in my head. That smell is still right up here in my head. Okay, it passed the initial inspection. Now I'm going to go about the procedures that I use to get this engine ready to crank over with the starter. I'm not talking about starting it here. I'm talking about cranking it over with the starter, and we'll go over that in the next part in this series.